right, so we're going to go through, we're going to speculate on what animals we think are going to actually make it into JWE3. We know there are 82 animals, and presumably that does not include the deluxe edition animals, so there's probably 86 in the roster. And we know that 75 animals in the base game can breed, which means with the deluxe edition it's probably 79 animals. Although the phrasing on that is a little ambiguous. It may not be that 75 animals can breed, it may be that 75 animals have juveniles. That's a very different thing. This may mean that we have perhaps small animals like compies breed and then just hatch as adults. They just don't have a juvenile form, right? They essentially hatch full grown. And that's a very different thing than them just not being able to breed. So I am going to choose for this speculatory video to interpret that as being some animals that don't breed and some animals that just don't have juveniles, kind of wrapped into the same category. So that'll be our antinatalist tier. and the ones that can breed will be our fertile and breedable animals. So those are the categories. And then we got some like placeholder categories here for speculatory stuff. You were checking out the JWE3 gameplay. Perfect timing. So let's start here. Should we just go in order maybe? Let's do that. Okay, acro. I feel like, so what we're going to do is we're going to put some of these animals in the maybe categories, and then we'll move them up or down as we put more in and think about it, right? Acro feels like something that should make the cut, but we're not going to lock it in. Same with Alberto. Allosaurus is in for sure. So we know that Allosaurs are fertile and breedable. Amarga feels distinctive enough that it could get in, I think. Anki's confirmed. Anki's in. I'm gonna consider Apatosaurus in. This is not a confirmed animal, but since it's in the film canon, in multiple movies, in fact, I think we can consider that a lock. Archaeornithomimus, probably not. We'll put that in the probably not category. And anybody in chat can chime in with their own opinions on what animals you think might be cut. If we deliberate here on some of these animals, feel free to chime in your own opinions. Baryonyx confirmed by trailer. Brachiosaurus confirmed by trailer. Camarasaurus is a weird one because it's kind of got a unique niche in terms of like body plan and shape, being like this smaller brachiosaur-like animal. It's also a JW1 launch animal, so it's got a lot of history behind it. At the same time, nobody like really loves this animal. It doesn't get much attention. So I'm going to put it in the maybe no category, but it's probably more likely than Archie to make the cut. Carcharodontosaurus. This is a weird one. People don't like this. It's understandable, but it does have the legacy of being in JPOG. That's also another one that feels weird as a maybe no. I think we'll leave it there. Carno is in the trailer. Cerodactylus. I'm going to put in a maybe yes. Ceratosaurus is probably a lock. Not confirmed, but we're going to say that we expect it to be in. Chasmosaurus. Yeah, if Archie is only in the game because Claire says its name, but I think the big argument, this is not necessarily where Chasm's going, but I think the big argument for this being a maybe no is that there's never been any support for it being an actual franchise animal beyond Claire saying its name. It's not like any subsequent media has used it. It's not like there's been any other hints that it's been cloned. So I think it's cuttable. Also, I think we're due for a feathered ornithomimosaur, maybe just Ornithomimus. So I think it could be, I think it's entirely reasonable that we could see something like Archaeornithomimus get cut and then get like Ornithomimus in its place with feathers. And frankly, I think I would accept that trade. I would accept the trade of a not particularly appealing design that has some franchise history for a nice feathered design that has no real franchise history. I'm okay with that. Chasmosaurus, I think I'm going to put Chasmo as a very high maybe no, as in almost a maybe yes. Not much franchise history behind it, but yeah, Karkar is another one where like the name alone, like really argues for it to be included, I think. Yeah, and I think Pterodactylus I'm going to put here on the top of maybe yes. I think this is a very likely include because it's in the novel. Chung is unfortunately, I think, pretty likely to be cut, even though I really like Chung. Coelophysis is a weird one because I don't think Coelophysis and Stegosaurus make it together, and I don't know. Like, I'm not sure if they'd go with the franchise Coelophysoid over the like iconic Coelophysoid, right? In like real paleontology, that's a real hard one to think of. Like, which one would get cut? Because my heart wants Stegosaurus, but my brain feels like they're going to include Coelophysis. Compy is definitely in. Compy's going in the antinatalist category. This is either going to not breed or it's going to hatch directly to be an adult, I think. So we're going to put that in there. We're going to go pretty conservative on the hybrids and the scavengers until we kind of start filling out this list. Because I got some in mind that I think are sure locks, so I want to get them in the tier first. And then we'll fill the gaps with things out of maybe yes, like the Coelophysis. I think Corythosaurus is still a lock as a franchise animal, so I'm going to put it in fertile and breedable. I don't know, man. Does the Coelophysis get cut over the Segi? Like, I think it should, but I just don't really believe that Frontier will do that. Crichton, I'm putting in maybe no. Cryolophosaurus, I mean, it's a pretty iconic animal, but other than channel viewer cryo, like I haven't seen a huge amount of gushing for this animal. Let's make this a low, maybe yes. Deinonychus probably cut. Dilophosaurus confirmed. Dimorphodon's gotta be in. Do we think Dimorphodons will have babies? That's the question here. I think the base Jurassic World Dimorphodon is big enough that it could have babies, but the Dominion one's pretty small. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to leave this in antinatalist for now. We'll move it up depending on what else we put in this tier. I think I'm more inclined to think that this will have hatchlings, juveniles, but we're just going to leave it here temporarily. Diplo is my favorite sauropod, but I think it's probably the one that's most likely to get cut. Gremlin babies, yeah. All right, Dracorex is my first lock for this is absolutely cut from the game. I think there's no way Dracorex makes it. I think Dracorex will be the template for the juvenile Pachycephalosaurus. I think that's too obvious of a thing to do. So I think Dracorex is a hard cut. Oh, do we have the variant designs in here? Okay, so let's do that too. Variants are hard cut, I think. There's no way they do two babies for the same thing. So the Allosaurus Frontier design is cut, I think for sure. Same with Drenatus for Frontier designs. Absolutely cut. Yeah, I think Crichtonsaurus, like the novel reference is fun and all, but like I think it's a high contender for getting cut. It's really forgettable. Dryosaurus, I think, is a high contender for making it. I think Monosaurus is a lock. Elasmo, I think Elasmo might get cut. It's not a very good. You think Diplo will be in for sure? I appreciate your enthusiasm there because I really hope it will be, but I feel like people don't like it that much. I think Uoplo is a high consideration. Galley's in for sure. Giga, but not this Frontier design. This is cut, I'm saying. I think all the Chinese Stegosaurids got to go in maybe no, and then we got to decide which ones we think will make it. So Gigant down here. Wait, yeah. Wait, where's Huango? Is he down here at the... Okay, he's down here. Because he's a DLC animal, technically, I guess. Okay, fair. Think they'll keep all the water ones. I don't know about that, personally. I mean, it's possible. I think right now the roster's unbalanced, right? JWE2 ended with a different number of aviary and aquatic species. And I think that'll probably be balanced out for going into 3. Did I see the Gaming Beaver video? We watched part of it at the end of the video I put out today. Yeah. the YouTubers got exclusive footage, so we had to watch them watch the footage to see their exclusive footage. So yeah. Will JWE3 save Frontier? I mean, it certainly won't hurt. Okay. Do I think Herrerasaurus makes it? I think Herrerasaurus is probably the most likely brochure species to make it. We'll put it high up on maybe yes. Homalocephaly. I think Homalocephaly gets bonus points because I think Dracorex is probably cut. So I think losing Dracorex boosts Homalocephaly's chances. Ichthy, I think, is very likely in. We'll put Ichthy in straight up in the list. I'm not convinced Cryolophosaurus makes it. I'm sorry, but I'm not convinced. Iguanodon, definitely cut. Frontier design doesn't need to exist anymore. It's gone. Indominus is confirmed, and definitely probably doesn't breed naturally. Same with Indoraptor. Indoraptor is not confirmed, but we're going to lock it in, I think. Frontier Kentro is gone for sure. Leopleurodon, I think, is a likely candidate for being cut. Yeah, Ichthy's breedable, I think. Allosaurus is in, but not this Allosaurus. The Frontier one's gone. We have the variants in the tier list, so we'll separate them out. Marodactylus. I really like the Marodactylus. It's my favorite base game pterosaur, but it's also very, very forgettable. So we're going to put that in maybe no. Maiasaura, maybe no. Maiasaura is a novel species, but there's this rumor flying around, and there was a rumor, at least there was a rumor flying around, that Maiasaura is in Rebirth, and if Maiasaura is in Rebirth, that means a new design. However, it's not in the leaked document that came out recently that's got like 40 pages of like behind the scenes information and bios for the film. So I'm kind of leaning towards that being a false rumor, or Maiasaura has been cut from the film, possibly. So I don't think we could say for sure that Maiasaura is cut. What I do think we can say for sure is cut is Majungasaurus. Here's my logic, right? Majungasaurus is going to get cut, and they're going to put it in a DLC with the Chaos Theory design. It's the perfect way for them to cut an animal and save time with not having to like design it, and then bring it back in a DLC with a different design to make money. So I think it's completely cut. And this is going to come up with Suchomimus as well. Yeah, the Frontier Iguanodon is awesome. I really like the Frontier Iguanodon. This is a design I'm going to be really sad to see go. Same with the Frontier Allosaurus. But I do not believe that they will be in. I think there's zero chance those animals make it in that form. Mamenchi, we're going to lock the Mamenchi in. I think it's entirely plausible we get a new design for Mamenchisaurus though, because they already have to design a new baby. I could see them, like I'm not saying I think they will redesign it. I think they could take this opportunity to make a more film accurate Mamenchisaurus. Could. Like I don't even expect. Like I think it's like a 20% chance. I think it's a possibility. But not a likely possibility, to be clear. I think Metri Acanthosaurus is in. Pretty popular animal in the game, both 1 and 2. Film canon, even though we never see it on screen. I think we can consider that a lock. Mosasaurus is confirmed. Mutabura. Mutabura is a pretty good design. It's decently popular. I'm going to put it in maybe yes, but low ranked. Nasudo's in for sure. Like it's not confirmed, but we can assume that's in. Pretty safe bet. Yeah, if they gave it its Lost World design, it would be more popular, I think. I think it's true. Also, if they give Mamenchisaurus its Lost World design and then they cut Diplo, we get like we still get a really long boy, right? So that's another thing they could do. If they want to tighten up the roster, they can cut Diplo and essentially use its rig to remake Mamenchisaurus. And that could be a thing. This guy's pretty distinctive, the Nigersaurus, so we'll put him in maybe yes. I think the Notosaurids are going to get trimmed, so we're going to put all of them in maybe no, and think about it later, which ones make it. Oranosaurus is gone for sure, because we have the other design. Mutta is It's not the only Australia rep, but I do think Mudda is likely to stay. Allura Titan, I'm not sure. It's more popular than some of the other ones, I think. I would like to see some new Hadrosaur designs. Like, I really want to see some new Hadrosaurs, and the only way we get some of those is to see some of the other ones get cut. But at the same time, I feel like there isn't an obvious cut for the Hadrosaurs because there's kind of a few that are underwhelming. So yeah, hard to say. Pachycephalosaurus will be in for sure. Para is confirmed. Penta, I think Penta could kind of go. I don't really think people care that much about Pentaceratops. I think Chasmo's probably, I don't know, Chasmo feels more popular to me than Penta. Do you think Allura's going extinct? I think it's plausible here. We'll put it at the top of maybe no. Plesiosaurus. I think Plesio got to be in because it's the other small aquatic from base game, right? I think that makes it. Let's put the aquatics together here at the end because I want to keep track of how many we have. So 3 aquatics. Yeah, Penta feels like a no. Polacanthus goes next to Notosaurus. I don't think these guys can all make it. Procerato. Now, this is an interesting one because we got Guanlong coming. Guanlong could really just be a replacement Proceratosaurus. I'm going to put it in maybe no. Like, it's a classic JP brochure animal, but I'm not really convinced. We'll put it at the bottom of maybe yes. Because I think it's very similar paleontologically to Guanlong, and it might be a telling hint that we got the Guanlong in the deluxe edition. Penta should have been long gone, maybe. Pteranodon's confirmed. Quanjusaurus. Soft, yes, maybe. It's a good design, but at the same time, it doesn't exactly make waves. You know what? Top of maybe no. It's not quite there. Procerato redesign, maybe. Still not convinced, though. Sauropelta goes with his other Notosaurid fellas. Sinoceratops is a lock. We know this. Spinosaurus is literally confirmed. Stegosaurus is confirmed. This design as well for both of these. Struthiomimus. Struthy's got to be in. Struthy's an iconic JWE animal. There's no way they cut Struthy. Like, 0% chance Struthy is cut. It's going to make it, I believe. Stiggy will be in for sure. Styracosaurus. I'm going to put Styrac in maybe yes. I think it's pretty distinctive. I think it can make it. It's a popular animal. It's a novel animal. There's a lot pushing for Styrac, but I think we can't consider it a lock. And I think the biggest reason we can't lock in Styrac is just that the franchise has so many Ceratopsians. There's also the thin chance that we get Diabloceratops in the next movie because of merchandise stuff that weirdly has it in. So it's a weird possibility that we could just lose Styrac because there's just too many Ceratopsians. Suko's cut. We'll get a Suko in a DLC based on Chaos Theory. Calling it. Tapajara. Okay, hot take. Tapajara's in and it's an herbivore. That's what I'm saying. Tapajara makes it and it's the herbivorous pterosaur. I think that would give it a really unique niche. And I think that's enough reason that they would include it. Torosaurus. Torosaurus goes with the other forgettable ceratopsians, I think. I like Torosaurus quite a bit in the game, but I think it can be cut. Trike is confirmed. This design as well. Troodon. I feel like feel like Troodon almost certainly makes it, but I'm not sure I'm going to put it in the top tier. I think I'm going to put it at the top of maybe yes. Troodon's got very good odds of making it in, but there's just enough little quirks to it that like maybe it would get cut. Maybe. Tropognathus probably makes it. I'm going to put it next to Pterodactyl, and we'll think about that more. I think it's entirely reasonable that both of these guys make it in, but I think it's also entirely reasonable that just one of these two make it in because they do kind of have similar profiles with the ridged beaks and whatnot. But I think Mara is the one that's least likely to make it out of the three. I'm gonna put Sintao really likely to be cut. Actually, maybe we should go a little more aggressive here on this cut tier. Actually, let's do this. Let's do add a row above. Oops, I added two. Delete row. Okay, this is going to be cut cut entirely, and this is going to be cut and like repackaged, we'll call it. So these are animals that have a variant that makes it in, or they're recycled as like a juvenile for Dracorex, or they come back in a DLC like Suchomimus and Majungasaurus. I hate that parenthesis is there. We'll do cut repack there. Sintao extinct, yeah. So we're gonna go more aggressively here on this cut. I think Deinonychus is gone. I think Crichton is gone. I think Sintao is gone. I'm gonna think more on which. Well, we should pick which of the Chinese stegosaurs we think are gone and which of the nodosaurids we think are gone as well. I feel like Gigantspinosaurus gets the least love out of the three Chinese stegosaurids, but it's also got the most distinctive silhouette out of the three. Honestly, I kind of feel like it's Chungking that goes, just like trying to divorce my feelings for the animals from what I think will happen. Chung is my favorite of the three by far, but I think it's the one that gets cut. Huangosaurus is kind of distinctive for being like the really early stegosaurid, and Gigantspinosaurus has the unique profile with those big shoulder spikes. That really doesn't leave Chungkingosaurus with a role, so I think he goes. I think Sauropelta is the cut for the nodosaurids. I mean, this guy's the namesake, and Polacanthus is like a really early animal that's like in discovery order. It's like one of the first dinosaurs there. It's a better way to place that. You know, it's from like the 1800s or whatever. Pretty distinctive. It's European, which gives it kind of a unique role as well, versus just another North American animal like Sauropelta. So yeah, I don't really like either Tyrannosaurus that much. I think both of them have issues. We're gonna leave Maya here still. I'm still gonna debate the aquatics, so we're gonna leave them there. I'm not locking the removal on like Archie or Kamara yet. We're gonna stew on that a little while longer. And then yeah, we got these ceratopsians. There's no way all three of these like long frilled boys make it. Penta's definitely gone, I think. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna put Penta here. I think Toro's probably gone too. I think Chasmo's more likely to make it. Tylosaurus also is a weird profile animal, but it does have franchise significance. So maybe we put Tylo at low, maybe yes. Tyrannosaurus is in. Velociraptor is in. Attenborough is a weird one. It's a really nice design, but it's also like another weird meta reference like Marodactylus and Crichtonsaurus. But I think it's more likely to make it because it is a really nice looking animal. Geosternbergia is confirmed. Megalosaurus, to me, Megalosaurus is like kind of the more underwhelming version of Quanjusaurus. Like they both were new animals added in JWE2, and one felt more interesting than the other. But Megalosaurus does have, history. It's literally one of the first 3 dinosaurs ever discovered. So it feels more significant from a name standpoint and less significant from a design standpoint. So that leaves it in a weird spot for me. We're just going to leave it here for now. I'm not sure. Pachyrhinosaurus will be cut and repackaged as a Chaos Theory design. Yeah, Megalo's a maybe, but I'm leaning towards cut. That's my thought. Desungaripterus. This animal feels pretty forgettable to me, but it does have a unique profile. So maybe a low, maybe yes, I guess. I keep putting these guys ahead of the aquatics here. Let's put the aquatics at the front of the list so that I remember these are here. Same with the pterosaurs. Okay, I think the Chrono is a very nice design. I could see that staying. Chrono is, I think, more likely than the Leo because it's a lot nicer design. But it's a very similar animal. Minmai. I think Minmai probably makes it. Maybe this is a hot take to immediately chuck it into, it made it into the game. But I think this is a pretty good addition for the Ankylosaurid roster, having this smaller, different animal. I think it's a good likely include. Worosaurus. Put Worosaurus and maybe yes. We got to put this guy in maybe yes. We can't send him all the way yet. That's too much of a lock. We can't do it. Already lots you disagree with. Okay, what stands out? What do you think is crazy here? Yeah. Monolophosaurus is a franchise animal. I think it stays. Scorpius is antinatalist in the game but can't breed. Dimetrodon's in. Pyroraptor's in. Cats is in for sure. That's actually confirmed by that was in the YouTuber footage, I think. Theory will be in. Alamosaurus. Maybe. I don't know if I see any of like the newer DLC animals getting cut, actually. Like maybe all the DLC JW2 animals will make it just because they're newer. They sell better, right? In a sense. We'll put it in maybe, yes. Same with Ostro. Barb. Ooh, Barbarodactylus, though? That was such a misfire on the DLC. But they could give the male an antler and make it more interesting. You think Megalo's cut for sure? I'm leaning strongly towards it being cut too, but I just don't want to lock it yet. I'm going to leave Barb down here at the top and maybe no. Styx. I think Styx could be a good replacement for Elasmosaurus. I could see this making it as our big Plesiosaurid. Styx and Plesi over Plesi and Elasmo. I think that's reasonable. Atrociraptor, film cannon, Listro, film cannon. Ooh, does Listro breed though? Do we get baby Listros? Ooh. That's a tough one. We should specifically put down that there's 7 animals here and 82 here, or 86 here. Or no, 79, because that's the full roster. Well, 77, because we know 2 of them are new. So it's less than 77. Notosaurus being the one that comes back, probably. It's the namesake. I could see it. I could also see it being replaced with like a new Notosaurid altogether, like a Borealopelta, but probably. Yeah, I think we'll put Listro in the no breeding category for now, and then we'll think about this more because it's going to start getting very full with Morose and Oviraptor. See, that's already 8 animals. That's way too many. Dimorphodon's breed. We're going to lock Dimorphodon as a breedable pterosaur. Dinocaurus, I think, is almost certainly in. Actually, I'm going to... Do I want to just start locking stuff? No, let's not. Dinocaurus, Tapa maybe yes, almost certainly in. I think Sinosauropteryx is gone. As amazing as this design is, it's got no franchise history, and I think some of the scavengers have to go. There's no way they give us all the scavengers. It's just too much. So I think I'm gonna mark it. I'm gonna hard lock that's cut. Same with Geholopterus. I think these are the most likely newer DLC animals that we don't get. Slight spoiler for Jurassic World Dominion, or I mean Jurassic World Rebirth. Come back in 10 seconds if you don't want to hear. But a Neurognathus is probably in the film, which also means we lose Geolopterus for a Neurognathus in the DLC at some point. So we get a different animal to replace it with essentially the same rig, I bet. Okay. Spoiler done. Eutyrannus. I think Eutyrannus is almost certainly in as well. This is like a really popular design. I'm actually going to hard lock Eutyrannus. This is one of the few non-aviary lagoon animals I am going to hard lock that's non-canon, because this is an exceptional design and people like it. Dread is in. I think, did we not get Dread confirmed? I feel like, why do I feel like I saw Baby Dreadnoughtus somewhere? It's not on my list I stole from Reddit. But I swear we saw this somewhere. But I guess I'm dreaming. Giga definitely makes it. Iguanodon makes it, but the new design. Kentro and Arano from Camp Cretaceous. All right, aquatics. Archelon. Pretty distinctive. Pretty distinctive and actually lays eggs. Probably makes it. Dunkleestes is soft confirmed because there's a donkey decoration already seen in like one of the shots from one of the videos today. Small animals come back as mini attractions. Maybe. I wouldn't hold my breath. I don't really like the mini attraction concept either, so maybe it's my own bias of not really being a fan of that. Nothosaurus, I think, makes it in, but I don't think it's a lagoon animal anymore. My bet is Nothosaurus is reworked as a land animal that's just favors the water. Like a Spinosaurid. I think Archelon will be a lagoon animal still, and I think Nothosaurus will be moved to land. That's my hot take here. Shonisaurus. I think Shoni makes it as the big ichthyosaurid. Yeah, I think those aquatics are probably a lock, yeah. You're confirmed. Conk is in for sure. DLC, deluxe edition animal. I think Giganoraptor is really likely. Tarbosaurus is a weird one. Because he's lost media now. Netflix has removed Hidden Adventure. So it's kind of like, it's even less canon almost in a way. But it's still a franchise design. So I'm not sure if they'd actually cut it. But I think if there was any single franchise animal that was going to get cut, I think it would be Tarbo. I just think G-Hole is going to get reworked based on, well, the spoilers again. I think this is just going to become a Neurognathus and a DLC. Um, do you think Dryo is more likely than Utaranus? I don't agree. I think they both get in, but I don't think I would agree that Dryo is more likely. I think Utahraptor is in. Um, People love this design for good reasons. JP3 Brocky. I think this is gone. I don't think we get variants. Not at the launch. I don't think the game will launch with any variants at all. Because it's resources that could go into an entirely new animal. So I think Brocky is cut. I think we could see this arrive later in an update or a DLC pack or something. I think the first variants we get will be the rebirth redesigns for like Spinosaurus. Yeah, I think to be clear, I am very confident that Dryosaurus will be in. Actually, I'm so confident Dryosaurus will be in, I will put it up here. It's a pretty unique animal in the roster. I'm fully confident of it. But yeah, I just wasn't going to put it ahead of Udi. Yeah, can we get the screen bigger? Good call, good call. We are missing a lot of the tier thing here. Yeah, the list has gotten too big. How do we want to do this? Hold on. Let me pause the video and I'll sort this out. Okay. Yes. This is slightly better, I guess. You can see slightly more of it. So we'll try to roll with this. Dunk and Meg both have decorations that can be seen in screenshots. So that's why I think Dunkleosteus and Megalodon are confirmed, personally. Because they can sort of be seen in game already. Yeah, the Nanotyrannus making it in. I've enjoyed that joke popping up in different places. I think the tiny Dimorphodon is cut. I think the JP3 Pteranodon is cut. Start your petitions now to bring back the JP3 Pteranodon. Some people think you can see this in the Pteranodon shot. That like in the background of like the Pteranodons in the first trailer, some of the other ones are JP3 Pteranodons. I am not convinced. I think it's just the males and females. Scorp getting cut? Like maybe. We're gonna have to revisit this, right? This tier is too full. There's something wrong here. But we'll come back to that once we got the rest of these distributed. Lost World Stegosaurus is gone, I think. We just get the Jurassic World design. More fish could be neat. We'll see. I don't expect. I think there won't be as much of a focus on aviary and lagoon species this time around. I think we'll see more stuff in other directions, like crocodiles. I think crocodilomorphs will be like a big thing. I really expect that we'll get like very early on like a semi-aquatic crocodilomorph DLC because they're perfect for like the new water systems. Yeah, Indominus is a hard lock. It's back for sure. It's on the website by name. Yeah, having to petition for JP3 Pteranodon again will be hilarious. Allosaurus is confirmed. I think the hybrids are gone, except for Spinoceratops, maybe. Well, 2 years from now, they'll bring these back again. Microceratus, definitely. If anything can't breed, it's like micro. And then we got the Segi Coelophysis conundrum. And then Thanatos is confirmed. Okay, so this confirms if we think that Nothosaurus has moved out of the lagoon, then this gives us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 aquatics. And we only currently have 6 pterosaurs. I think they will balance these. It's also possible we get some new animals. Well, so how should we do this? Should we leave some space in the roster for new animals, or should we just pick 77 with the knowledge that some of those won't make it because new animals coming instead? I'm not sure. Yeah, sell the Doctor Wu hybrids again. That would be pretty funny. People bought them last time, right? Might as well sell them again. So this is 9 animals here currently flagged as not breeding. And that's ignoring the fact that we haven't put in Coelophysis or Stegosaurus. Okay, I'm gonna say I think Segi doesn't make it. I think Coelophysis makes it. I think they pick Coelophysis over the canon one. I hope I'm wrong. I'm hoping Segi makes it over Coelophysis. I just don't believe that will happen. So now how do we sort out this tier? Separated into currently confirmed and very likely, maybe. Yeah, we could do it that way, I suppose. But at this point, it's pretty much already done. So I think we'll just stick with this. Like I called out everyone that I believe is confirmed as we added them. So yeah, I think most people are willing to accept that we lose the variants. So we could have Scorpius Rex be capable of breeding, because it does breed in the show, right? It reproduces asexually, which could be an in-game mechanic. There could be the capability for the Scorpius Rex to asexually breed, which would give it more of a unique role. But no, but if it just spawns, it still wouldn't have the full family unit. So if my logic here is correct, that some animals breed but don't have babies, they just spawn as adults, that probably could apply, like you could apply that same logic to Scorpius Rex because it wouldn't have a male and female variant, right? It wouldn't have the 3 forms, which is my whole logic is that the one of the articles that says, 75 family units with male, female, and juvenile variants, right? So I'm using that as the logic that the small animals breed but don't have juveniles. But I think that would apply to animals that also just don't have male and female variants, like the Scorpius, and by extension, the other hybrids, even if they did breed. Huh. Unless the hybrids all do breed, and then it's just the scavengers that just don't have juveniles. That's hard. That's a hard consideration. Like, yeah, we could say Coelophysis breeds, and then get that out of there. But where else are we willing to draw the line here on these guys? I guess we say the Scorpius does count, but man, I don't know. That's a tough one. I mean, like the Indominus Rex and the Indoraptor, like these things did have juveniles at one point. Hmm. Yeah. I don't think I see the Indominus or the Indoraptor raising hatchlings though. So even if they did decide to do like a female and a male variant, it's still they would still feel very weird to have these animals raising babies. You think Spinoceratops gets the cut? I mean, it's canon, right? That's my big thing here. It's like I don't know if I see it going. Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. This is a stumper. This really has me stumped. I don't really see them cutting like a fully modeled film canon animal. So I don't think we can like cut Moros or Obi Raptor or something. I think these all have to be in. Hmm. Okay. I think Chronosaurus will make it on the aquatic roster. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 aquatics. And then like one slot for a new one, maybe. So probably like if the logic of balancing the rosters is followed, then probably we do get like Tropognathus and like Desungaripterus in. Where'd Desun go? There he is. And then maybe Barb makes it? Cerodactylus. Pterodactyl should be in because it's in the novel. So that would be 9 and 9. That would mean maybe we cut. I think we can say that probably Marodactylus will be cut. I'm going to say Elasmo and Leopleurodon are gone. Do we think Barb goes? Do we think Atten goes? Do we think Tylo goes? Well, I mean that's maybe what the not breeding tier is, right? They might kind of be the glorified background animals, depending on if the hybrids count for that. I mean, here's another possibility, right? Maybe Frontier wasn't counting the hybrids at all when they said 75 animals and 82 or whatever, right? Maybe they just weren't counting the hybrids in any of those numbers. Who knows? We could speculate that the Camp Cretaceous stuff gets cut entirely. Because then we would lose these two. Then we would have this set of 7. Here's an idea, right? Why is the roster 82 animals? That's a weird number. What if it's 80 regular animals and 2 hybrids? Just the endos. That might make sense. 75 breedable large animals, 5 small scavenger scale animals, and then 2 hybrids. If that were the case, then we'd probably lose the Monolophosaurus as well. And the Urano. And the Kentro. And maybe the Noth. And then they don't have to rework the Noth into like a land animal. That could be the case. You think Quanju is more likely than Alberto? I was thinking Alberto for franchise history because it's a JPOG animal and it's a trespasser animal. Yeah, I think Procerado, I think Guanlong is a big sign that Procerado is gone. Tarble would go then too if we're cutting all the Chaos Theory Camp Cretaceous stuff. I mean, like aesthetically, they're kind of weird, right? Because they all do have a little bit of a cartoony vibe to them that doesn't quite mesh sometimes with the rest of the game. How many animals does that give us? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 per row, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 4 animals. That's getting up there, actually. That's already pretty close to a full roster. I think these guys make it. Yeah, I think this is already getting pretty close. Okay, here's what I want to look at. What do we got for Thyreophorans? We got Anki, we got Stego. There's no way they don't have some friends. I think the Uoplo is a pretty popular design, but maybe it's too close to the Anki. But it kind of works as like the paleo accurate and Kylosaurid, right? I think the Uoplo is pretty good. What if we just get these three? Maybe just Anki, Uoplo, Minmai makes it in, and everything else is gone. Is that crazy? I don't think that's crazy. I think it's weird, but I don't think it's crazy. I think there's like no shot that we lose like Utah Raptor or Utaranus. I mean, we know Guanlong's feathered, right? So we know there's non-canon feathered animals in the game because of Guanlong. So I think we'll still have feathered animals. I think Gareth Edwards can't stop us. All right. What else makes it? I'm gonna cut. I'm gonna cut all these guys. I think Barb is out. I think Atten's out. I think Tylo's out. I think these are gone. I think these are our aquatic and our pterosaur rosters. I think Noto and Kentro. The problem with Kentro is like, are we cutting all the Camp Cretaceous animals or not? I kind of think they all go or none of them go. And then what do we bring back the Frontier Kentro? Like I don't know. Kentrosaurus feels like a really weird thing to cut. I agree though. Like Arano, I think we could lose Arano and like that wouldn't be that weird. But Kentro is like a very iconic Stegosaurid, and there's very few iconic Stegosaurids. You don't think it's all or nothing? Yeah, maybe it's not. Hmm. So maybe we keep just Kentro? For the roster size we have, I think three like Ankylosaurids and like three Stegosaurids feels kind of plausible. Maybe Wuro's the third one, or one of the Chinese Stegosaurids. I could see all three of these getting cut, at least initially. Same with like all three of these guys. I could see them doing this. I could see them just whole cutting the Nosaurids. It's kind of nuts, but something's got to give, right, on this roster. Now, conversely, there's another approach to think about this, which is what animals would they try to sell us later? I'm hopeful that we don't get too many animals repacked as purchasable DLC, but the deluxe edition does kind of establish that precedent. So we could see like really good animals like Utah Raptor be repurposed to be DLC again, which would really suck. However, the deluxe edition for JWE2 had Huangosaurus in it, and that was the only animal other than the secret species hybrids that was sold as DLC for two that was in one. So I don't think we can assume the deluxe edition is the template for DLC packs. I think that's not something we should jump to. I think I'm going to choose to approach this with the idea that they're not going to deliberately hold back iconic animals for DLC later. I think if we do make that decision, then like it is really hard to like design a roster. How many sauropods do we have? Four? And then Titanosaurus will come in the DLC. I think Kamara and Diplo probably get cut. I'm gonna say these guys are gone. I think Tarbo's gonna be gone. Ceratopsids. What do we got? We got you, We got you. We got you. We got Pachyrhinosaurus in a DLC. We got Micro. We got Aquilops. I think Styrac makes it. I'm going to say Styrac makes it. Expect about 10 new ones, maybe. I'm thinking I'm targeting like 70 here, right? So 70 would be, that would be 9 new species. I think that's pretty plausible. How many do we have in JW2? Like at launch? Hmm. Well, I tried Googling it real quick, but I didn't find a quick list. Yeah, definitely one of the smaller ones needs to make it. I think Amarga is more iconic than Niger. So I think I'm gonna say Amarga makes it. Niger's cut. Procerato's probably cut. Cutting Procerato like rips the band-aid off of cutting Brochure species, and we already cut. Well, we already cut Segi, didn't we? Yeah. 4 terrestrial, 6 aquatic, and 6 aerial. Okay. I could see us having less new ones now because of the babies. So 9 is maybe right. Maybe like 1 new aquatic, 1 new pterosaur. Then two DLC deluxe edition animals counted in that 9, and then a handful of other unique dinosaurs to add. Maybe because they do need some new animals in base game to help sell it. There's definitely some new things in the roster. So I think I'm going to target 70 animals here. So we're going to fill out this bottom row, and that's going to be what I think is in. Okay. Arky's probably cut. Hmm. I think Troodon's in. I think Australovenator will make it. It's pretty unique skins. It's the only Mega Raptoran. I think it's a good include. I think our current roster kind of gives us enough Chasmosaurians, so maybe both of these get cut. Maybe both Chasmo and Toro also don't make it with Penta. I could see that happening. Does Alamosaurus make it in? Hmm. Like it is a new DLC animal, relatively new. You think Austro gets cut? Maybe. I think it's kind of one of the most distinctive animals in that size category, but maybe. Carlophosaurus is also kind of a unique size category. Maybe he makes it. Hmm. We got a bunch of medium carnivores. Titanosaurus is, yeah, that's a good consideration. Titanosaurus would give us 3 Titanosaurids with Alamo and Dread. It's kind of overcrowded. Yeah, I think you're probably right. I think he probably does get cut. Looking forward to what will be in other DLCs, he probably gets bumped. Okay. Let's merge these two tiers together here. These are the remaining animals to kind of decide on. I think Megalosaurus is gone. I think Karkar is gone. I think Myosaur is gone. So we've got some large carnivores. We've got some small carnivores. We got Noth, and we got these various other little herbivore fellows. What's our carnivore roster here looking like? Berry, Carno, Cerato, Dilo, Metri, Spino, Tyrannosaurus, Velociraptor, Pyroraptor, Atrociraptor, Utyrannus, Giga, Conch, Utah, Guanlong, Allosaurus, Coelophysis, Gigantoraptor technically, Troodon, Cryolophosaurus, Australopinator. Honestly, I think they cut my favorite little boy here. I think Herrera's going to get cut for being too generic, which I don't think is valid and true, but I think that's what they will use to cut it. And it'll make me very sad. Titan is the third and final Lambeosaur? Maybe. Maybe. Oranosaurus probably makes it because it cuts too distinctive of a profile. Like, how do you not have, like, how do you, out of all the, like, the ornithopods, how do you cut the one with the sailback? It's also making me start to question then cutting the Monolophosaurus at the point where we put the Kentro and the Orano back in. You think Troodon's less likely than Herrera? Maybe. I'm just thinking, you know, Jurassic Park the game, but I did cut Tylosaurus, so I mean, I'm counteracting my own argument a little bit. If we put Monolophosaurus in, do we expect Australopinator to make it? Probably not. Yeah, I think Omalocephaly is enough of a meme too in the community that he makes it in. I think we'll also have him have a baby. Omalocephaly is like bigger than Lystrosaurus by a little bit, right? Like it's plausible that Lystro might not have a baby and Omalocephaly might. Do we think that's true? Yeah, Monolophosaurus kind of falls into the same filler category as well because of Guanlong getting in. Like Guanlong, Monolophosaurus, and Proceratosaurus all being in would kind of be crazy together. Like all the single crested guys with the thing on their nose. I don't know. Okay. Nothosaurus gets cut, right? But it comes back in a semi-aquatic DLC along with some crocodilomorphs. That's my guess. So Nothosaurus is postponed. This comes back later. We definitely need one of these large carnivores. I'm not convinced we see the Lost World Pteranodon as a baby. I think all the Pteranodons we see are just the male, female, and juveniles for the Jurassic World one with some redesigns. Baby Homalocephales probably can't be Sedgy size. Yeah, so then that could be in. That could work. It could be in the roster and still have a baby, I think. You don't think the semi-aquatics get cut? I don't know. I just see Nothosaurus in 2 being a land animal. Like taking advantage of the new swimming stuff. And then like I just think when we're talking about like what makes it in at launch and versus held for later, I could see Nothosaurus being held. I'm not fully convinced. Like I started with it in the game, right? I've only just now kind of fully cut it out, but we will have Basilosaurus. I don't know. Don't know about that. Who knows? Which large carnivore makes it? You think Acro gets the axe? Oh yeah, true. Beckel's Spinax will probably come in at some point. Yeah, because I did build this roster with the idea that we get a Chaos Theory DLC for like Mahjong and Suko and Pachyrhino, so it makes sense that yeah, the ramp terrain tools are very cool for sure. I like those. So yeah, it does make sense to maybe cut Acro for having too many Carnosaurs. Conversely, though, Quanju and Albertosaurus for more Tyrannosaurids. Like if we include Eutyrannus, that's also kind of already there. Okay. I think Quanju's the better design over Alberto in the game. I think it's more pleasing, but I think Alberto's the one that gets in on name recognition and history. So I'm gonna lock Alberto and I'm gonna remove Quanju. The DIN is like the new dinosaur breeding group thing. Mutabura and Aloro. It's a tough one. Kretho and Mono and Para. We cut Maya. Yeah, Aloro probably needs to make it in. The Hadrosaur roster looks a little sparse. We would only have 4 Tyrannosaurs if we keep one. Maybe. Yeah, not all buildings in JWE3 are going to be modular. Like they'll be pre-built and blueprints you can do. You don't have to build every building from scratch for sure. Wait, what is an Evo 2 baby? Quanju, you mean? I mean, yes. But right, okay. You know what? How about this? I think this is what I'm feeling. We lose Acro and Ostro, we get Oloro and Mutta. That gives us 6 ornithopods. 4 hadrosaurs, 2 non-hadrosaur ornithopods. I don't know where Iguanodon went. There he is. Could be a thing, maybe, right? Maybe. So that would be 70 animals. We could also say maybe, yeah, go ahead. What's your theory? Out with it. Maybe it's less new animals, right? This is leaving 7 slots at this point. I don't think there's been any confirmation that all canon species will be capped. I think that's just speculation from people. I mean, I think it's pretty reasonable speculation. I think it's quite plausible, but I don't think it's guaranteed. I would like Diplo to get back in, but I'm not entirely convinced. But yeah, I mean, only 4 big sauropods that release does feel kind of weird. Maybe there should be one more. 7 new animals in base game, 2 in deluxe. Do we really think that's reasonable? Yeah, Mahjong could maybe have some cannibalistic behaviors, but they didn't do it previously. They didn't give it any special behaviors like that, so I don't think we'll see anything like that necessarily. It'd be kind of neat to give some distinctive behaviors, and there is some distinctive parental behaviors, but I mean, like, I don't know. Maybe it could happen, I guess. Maybe. Yeah, JPOG was all Morrison sauropods. I mean, true. But I think this is I think I'm feeling this. Let me get the whole thing on screen here. So this is what I'm gonna lock. I'm gonna just lock it in. I don't think Mamenchi would get removed. I mean, Diplo is definitely the more iconic animal, generically speaking, but Menchie's in a film. I can't see them cutting an animal that's actually seen on screen. I think if anything, they just remodel it and borrow the Diplo rig. I don't know. Hard to say. I think I'm gonna lock this. I'm gonna lock it in. 70 breedable animals, 7 non-breedable animals, plus 9 new animals, including the deluxe edition. I mean, those are all true arguments, Rugops, but I don't know. I'm not convinced. This is probably my canon bias speaking a little bit, but I don't know. All right, well, if this is our roster, the prediction is Ichthyosaurus, Shonisaurus, Mosasaurus, Chronosaurus, Plesiosaurus, Styxosaurus, Archelon, Dunkleosteus, and Megalodon for aquatics, Dimorphodon, Pteranodon, Tapejara, Geosternbergia, Quetzalcoatlus, Thanatos, Dracon, Tropognathus, Cerodactylus, and Desungaripterus for pterosaurs. Then we can do our carnivores, I guess, in one group. Let me move some guys around, I guess, quick. Do. We'll probably get a good idea pretty soon if I'm off base on some of this stuff or not. Like, we should get some pretty quick additional confirmations of some animals, I expect. Yeah, DLC Rugops, let's go. Yeah, so much as the animals that are new community faves and icons in the Jurassic franchise will be kept. But like icons in the Jurassic franchise is like, does that mean everything in the franchise or just the really popular stuff, right? I think that's the argument there. How do you interpret that statement? Also, like, she probably doesn't actually know that much more information about the roster than anybody else does, right? She's probably repeating something she was told and was allowed to say. It's probably not like she saw a list of the animals and then made that statement based off that list. Like, they definitely know stuff we don't. They've definitely been privileged to some extra information, but I don't really get the vibe, and I don't really think it's likely that they know like a huge amount of additional information, right? I mean, maybe, but I'm not convinced that they would know like a huge amount. All right, well, we'll check back when Mementosaurus is confirmed or nowhere to be seen. We'll find out who was right eventually. Um, I think it's very possible that I'm wrong and it's going to be cut, but whatever. We'll stick with this for now. Yeah, she's just restating it, right? So our carnivore roster then is Baryonyx, Carnotaurus, Ceratosaurus, Dilophosaurus, Metracanthosaurus, Tyrannosaurus, Velociraptor, Pyroraptor, Dimetrodon, Atrociraptor, Eutyrannus, Spinosaurus, Giganotosaurus, Concavinator, Utahraptor, Allosaurus, Coelophysis, Gigantoraptor, Troodon, Cryolophosaurus, Monolophosaurus, Albertosaurus, and that should be it if I didn't miss any other ones here. Yeah, okay, and that gives us like we have more herbivores than carnivorous dinosaurs, but more like carnivores overall once you include the aquatics and the pterosaurs. That feels reasonable. Also, 30 herbivores seems pretty reasonable for like the basic breedable population. Troodon comes back as Tenonychosaurus because they didn't see the new study. I mean, maybe that would be kind of funny, right? To like replace a animal for being not valid previously, and then like paleontology changes its mind. New evidence comes out and like argues for the one to be correct, but then they've already changed it again behind the scenes to a different animal. That would be real peak comedy. Um, that would be absolutely hilarious. Then our herbivore roster would be Dinocaurus is an omnivore, but like it doesn't eat meat; it eats fish. That's fine. For all intents and purposes, it's an herbivore because it doesn't go around hunting down your other dinosaurs. Like a piscivorous omnivore is just doesn't really have much of an actual consequence in game. So herbivore roster: Iguanodon and Monosaurus, Corythosaurus, Parasaurolophus, Lorotitan, Metaburosaurus. Then we've got Pachycephalosaurus, Stygimoloch, and Homalocephaly. Therizinosaurus, Struthiomimus, and Gallimimus. Brachiosaurus, Dreadnoughtus, Mamenchisaurus, Apatosaurus, and Margosaurus. The Pseudoceratops, Triceratops, Sinoceratops, and Styracosaurus, Dryosaurus, Dinochirus, Ankylosaurus, Euoplocephalus, Minmi, Stegosaurus, Kentrosaurus, and Wurosaurus, and Oranosaurus, who should have probably been up here with his other friends. Brontosaurus confirmed. That would be cool. Especially if it was like the PK Brontosaurus. That'd be neat. And then for our not full family unit animals, we've got 2 hybrids, because that could explain why the full roster without the DLC is 82. 80 animals, 2 hybrids. That kind of has a synergy to it. It has a vibe to it. So Indominus and Indoraptor as animals that don't have male-female variants and do not breed. And then we got Compsognathus, Lystrosaurus, Moros, Oviraptor, and Microceratus as animals that have male and female variants and breed, but do not have juvenile forms. So they don't have full family units, which is why they're not counted in the full family unit stuff they talk about a lot on the webpage, right? That's how I think this is going to work out. This is how Planet Zoo does it, where the small animals can breed, they just don't have juvenile forms. I see no reason why JWE3 should be different on that front. Oh yeah, the Jurassic World Apatosaurus being like Brontosaurus sounds familiar. I think I remember seeing that argument. Is it actually, where's it called Excelsis? Is that like the website or something for Jurassic World back in the day? Yeah, that's kind of one of those weird things, right? Like, I mean, the Brachiosaurus is technically Giraffatitan, right? Because it's based on the animal that became Giraffatitan, not based upon the actual proper Brachiosaurus. But like the name is just never changed in the franchise because it's what we're used to. Yeah, I think that's our roster. I think I'm gonna lock that in. We can make it a little bigger here. I mean, we did read out all the guys, but boom. I guess we can skim through some of the logic on the cut animals again. Let's do that. So there's the inclusions. And then for the cut animals, right, we cut a bunch of the Stegosaurids. A lot of these guys ain't very popular. Cutting all 3 of the Asian Stegosaurids seems a little crazy. Reference material and production. Okay. So that's what the Brontosaurus thing is. Got it. Yeah, cutting all 3 of these seems kind of crazy to me, but I just don't really see the space in the roster to include another Stegosaurid. Maybe one of these comes in over Kentro or over Wurosaurus. It's possible. And then I marked all 3 Nodosaurids as being cut, which also seems kind of crazy to me, but I think all 3 of these animals are pretty, like, fairly unremarkable. Nobody really gushes over any of these, so I could see that happening, that they just get cut. Otherwise, maybe one of these makes it in over Minmi or over Uoplo. Like, I could see Ankylosaurus plus a Nodosaurid plus Minmi being like a good roster as well. You think Chungking is the one that comes in over Wuro? You know what? I would be happy with that. Chungking is like my favorite Stegosaurid. I just can't. I'm just trying to be objective and not, hoping my favorites make it in because I want them to. I would be ecstatic to see Chungking come in over Wuro. Nodo over Uoplo, I think that's quite plausible. I think that's reasonable. I could see it happening. I think Crichton's gone for sure. This guy is just the inferior version of Minmi. Really? Crichton replacing Minmi? I do not believe that. Not for a second. That one I'm completely against you on. I'm gonna say no. Deinonychus cut because it's Deinonychus. Plus we've got we got Pyroraptor, Utahraptor, and Atrociraptor since Deinonychus was added. This guy doesn't even have a role in the roster really anymore because he's got film canon replacements essentially after the fact. So I think he's one of the easiest cuts. Plus, a lot of people hate this guy. Then we had to trim down the Ceratopsian roster. Pentaceratops was the easy exclusion. Torosaurus and Chasm were a little harder to justify cutting, but none of them have any real long-term franchise significance. Torosaurus is in JPOG, but that's not enough to save them. So I think all three of those could be gone. I think Styx could be Elasmo. I think that's a reasonable one. Um, I mostly just went on the merits of the existing design, but Elasmo is the more iconic animal name wise of the two. I'm still gonna leave Styx in. I still think Styx is the one that makes it, but I won't be shocked if I'm wrong and Elasmo makes it and Styx is cut. I think those are essentially equal chances. Sintao gets cut as the most generic hadrosaur. Sinosauropteryx gets cut for being like the non-film canon scavenger. Um, I think this is the best scavenger design in like the game, pretty much. But I think it's got to get cut for being like the one that has no film connections. Geolopterus is probably gone for being, again, small, not an animal that's likely to have a juvenile form anyway. And there's a motivation for this being cut because of the new film, which I won't get into further here if you want to try to avoid leaks. Yeah, I think the hybrids get cut. All three Frontier hybrids are once again cut from the game. I think Stegosaurus gets cut over the name recognition for Coelophysis. I don't think both of them make it, so I would prefer Segi make it over Coelophysis, but I think it's more likely that Coelophysis makes it over Segi. Yeah, I think Herrera's got decent odds of still making it. I could see that happening. I hope it happens. It's literally my second favorite dinosaur of all time, but um, I think there's also potential it gets cut for being too generic. Marodactylus, I think, is gone because it's. I like the design of it a lot. It was like my favorite base game, Pterosaur, but as an animal, it's like the most obscure and forgettable one out of the roster, I think. Yeah, typical Stegosaurus L for sure. Already discussed Elasmo. I think Leopleurodon gets cut because people aren't happy with the design and Chronosaurus looks better. It kind of fills the same niche as Chronosaurus, so I don't think they both make it. Barbarodactylus, I'm on the fence about. I think the big argument for Barbarodactylus maybe making it in is that they can give the male a more distinctive head crest with the antler design and like retroactively justify this creature a little bit more. But at the same time, nobody really likes Barbarodactylus, so I think it could also just get cut and left out. Hey Robo, how's it going? We're just finishing up here, justifying the tier list a little bit. Attenborosaurus. Attenborosaurus is another animal that I think is a really good design. I could see this making it in. Ultimately, we ended up kind of cutting it because of roster space. Same with the Tylosaurus. I think the Tylo is not a good design. I think the Tylo is pretty ugly, but it's got franchise history because of Jurassic Park the game. And it would give us a second Mosasaur. But ultimately, because of space, I felt like we had to cut it. Kamara and Diplo got cut for being the more forgettable sauropods, despite Diplo being my favorite sauropod. I would really like to see Diplodocus make it in. I would really like to see Diplo getting some nicer skins and stuff. I'd be really interested to see the male. Something had to give, and unfortunately, the something that has to give is often apparently my favorite animals, like Diplo and Herrera. We ended up deciding that the Camp Cretaceous hybrids may be cut because it kind of makes sense that we'd only have two hybrids with the numbers, and there's too many small canon animals that probably get in here in the non-breeding column. So I think it's another case of like something that I would have thought would make it in before I sat down to do this tier list actually just can't make it in because the numbers don't work with it. So I think Scorpius Rex and Spinoceratops get bumped. Tarbosaurus gets basically bumped for the same reason. It's lost media. It's not terribly popular. So yeah, he ends up down here. Nigrosaurus loses its slot to Amargasaurus. It's the more distinctive and unique animal. I don't think both small sauropods make it. So I think Amarga wins there. Proceratosaurus gets cut because of Guanlong being in the deluxe edition. It would be weird if they were both in. Archaeornithomimus is cut out of the Ornithomimosaur roster. Struthi is an iconic JWE species. Gallimimus is canon. And I think 2 is probably all that makes it when we're cutting like 40 animals from the game. Alamosaurus was cut. This can be replaced with Titanosaurus in an upcoming DLC. does feel weird for a relatively new animal to get cut, but I think it is a reasonable exclusion. Do I think sauropods could swing their tails hard enough to decapitate something? Maybe. That's possible. I mean, literally, you can look online and you can find ostriches decapitating themselves. So, like, I think if if a bird can self decapitate, I think it could pretty much be decapitated by anything. So, I think it's entirely plausible that a sauropod could decapitate a small enough, fragile enough dinosaur. Um, Megalosaurus gets cut because it's Megalosaurus. Same with Carcharodontosaurus. There's enough other carnivores that kind of fit these niche. Neither of these animals are terribly popular. Megalosaurus is kind of new, but at the same time, it's very forgettable, so he's gone. Maiasaura cut, not very popular. I think there's a lot of points for this being in. It is a novel animal, so I think that's a good argument for it being in the actual roster. But yeah, like something's got to go. So maybe Maiasaura goes in over a Titan. It's possible. There's also a chance. It looks unlikely at this point, but there's a chance that Maiasaura is in Rebirth. Because there were rumors, but those rumors have kind of been left aside, and other leaks and rumors have kind of stepped in to point against Maiasaura being in the movie. So it may not make it. Interestingly enough, I did buy. This is the only Rebirth figure I bought, which is the Maiasaura. So I would like to see it. I would be really happy if we got like this design actually in Rebirth and in JWE3, but I'm not convinced that will actually happen. So he got cut. Herrerasaurus is one of my favorite dinosaurs of all time. It's my favorite, like, small carnivore in the game, but also it can come off a little generic. Like, the things that make Herrerasaurus unique are kind of subtle. So I think it's plausible it gets cut. I think it's also reasonable that it gets included because it is a fairly popular animal, especially in the first game. And it's on the JP brochure. It's in Jurassic Park the game. I think if we talk about, which of these cut animals will, if they are cut, at least come back in DLC. I think Herrerasaurus will come back if it's cut. I don't think we'll see it gone forever. I think it's entirely plausible that some of these animals do get cut entirely and never come back in DLC. Like, I think it's entirely possible we lose Deinonychus forever from 3. Same with some of these other guys. But I think Herrerasaurus will come back. Somehow Herrerasaurus returned. Same with Nothosaurus. I put Nothosaurus in the cut list because I could see Nothosaurus getting bumped to a semi-aquatic DLC, and they release like a semi-aquatic pack that is like the new version of Nothosaurus that can go on land, and then like some crocodilomorphs, and selling that. I hope we don't get repackaged animals in paid DLC going forward. I hope the deluxe edition is a unique thing in that regard, but I'm not going to put money on that. I think it's also very plausible that they sneak in previously existing animals in paid DLC going forward. I know that backfired spectacularly in like Planet Coaster 2, I think, to the point where Frontier stopped doing it and they like went back on, how they were generating DLCs for that game or whatever. But I haven't looked into that too much. And if my almost 40 years of being around on this planet playing video games has taught me anything, it's that companies don't learn, and they will repeat the same mistakes. They will try to get away with something. They will face backlash for it. They will backtrack on that thing, and then they will immediately do it again in a different game and try to get away with it a second time, even though it failed the first time. So, yeah. I think it's also possible we get a semi-aquatic DLC, and then we get Nothosaurus, and the free update is another semi-aquatic animal. Could be a thing, right? DLC with Utahraptor, Utaranus, Dinocaurus, and Gigantoraptor. Frankly, I could see something like that. Like, that's real evil video game company shit, but I think there's a world where that could happen, where they take like the 4 iconic feathered species and like repack them as a paid DLC. I don't think that's very likely, but there's definitely video game companies out there that would do that. So yeah, it's not entirely a fable. Quanjusaurus, he gets cut over Albertosaurus based on name recognition. I think it's possible he survives. Probably another animal that I would see getting, if it is cut, I would see this coming back in a DLC later or a free update later. Same with Acro. I was kind of favoring having Acro be in. He was one of the last animals we moved down here, of course. But there's plenty of other big carnivores in the franchise. And honestly, the Dominion Giga kind of steals his profile, right? With like that back ridge. So I could see Acro kind of getting cut for having a similar vibe to Giga, which is unfortunate because I'm very fond of this Acro design. I think it's a pretty good design. I know some people are mad that it doesn't have as much of a pronounced ridge on the back, but I like the fatty hump. Like, I think the Acro design is really nice because it's so bulky. And I'd be sad to see it go, but maybe. Australopithecus is another animal I had temporarily in the included list before it just kind of got bumped for Monolophosaurus. I think basically the difference between Australopithecus and Monolophosaurus is just whether or not a bunch of Camp Cretaceous stuff gets cut or not, right? If they want to go for a more frontier paleo vibe, maybe Austro makes it in and they do cut Mono. I wouldn't be shocked if Monolophosaurus is cut. Technically, the Dominion Giga is an Acro. I mean, kinda. Yeah, I mean, kinda. Technically, the Dominion Giga is just an abomination, right? So it could kind of be whatever you want it to be. But yeah, it does have a very Acrocanthosaurus vibe to it, which definitely works against actual Acrocanthosaurus. And then we got the animals down here I called repacks. So like the frontier designs for Allo, Dread, Giga, Iguanodon, Kentro, Tyrannosaurus. And yeah, that's all of them. I think these guys get cut because they got film/canon variants, and there's no reason for them to generate a baby for a non-canon variation of an animal that has since had an official adult version made. So I think these are gone completely. I don't think we'll see DLC for these guys. I don't think we'll see them in an update. I think these 6 animal models I think are just gone. They're completely out. I think it's possible that for some of the film canon variants, the JP3 Brachii, the Lost World Stego, the JP3 Pteranodon, and like to a lesser extent the Dominion Dimorphodon, I think it's possible these guys make it in an update or a DLC. I just don't think they'll be in at launch. Oh, I didn't know the Giga was modeled in part at least off of an Acro skeleton. That's interesting. I never really looked into a lot of the Dominion behind the scenes thing because of how I feel about Dominion. Yeah, I think the JP3 Pteranodon is the one that's most likely to come back as a proper variant with its own juvenile form. And I think the least likely one that we'll see is the Dimorphodon, in part because it's so small. I think the Stego and Brachii, these I could see being skipped entirely or coming in. I would really like to see both of these as variants again, but I mean, we didn't get like a proper classic trike variant in JWE2. I think it's entirely possible these just never get remade. They never get their own juveniles. I do think it's entirely plausible, kind of given the Stego juvenile too, that we could see some variants that just use the same baby form. Like if you show me the JWE3 juvenile Stegosaurus, I can believe that grows up into the Lost World Stegosaurus. I actually believe that grows up into the Lost World Stegosaurus more than I believe it grows up into the Jurassic World Stegosaurus. I would also really like to see Irritator in the game, but yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think we'll see a new Spinosaurid because I think we'll see the Spinosaurus variant for Rebirth, and I think we'll get eventually the Chaos Theory Suchomimus. So that's already 2 new models for Spinosaurids, even if they're not new animals. And I think that kind of unfortunately rules out the possibility of actually getting a new Spinosaurid altogether in the form of like Irritator or Ceratosuchops or something. And I think that's unfortunate, but I think that's the case. Talking about chaos theory, I think chaos theory is also why we can anticipate the Majungasaurus, Suchomimus, and Pachyrhinosaurus being cut. Because I think these guys, even if Frontier doesn't have immediate plans for a chaos theory DLC, I think the possibility of doing a chaos theory DLC in the future means they won't bother taking the time to make male variants and babies for these three animals. And they'll be things that are left over as the idea of doing them in a Chaos Theory DLC, or they'll show up in a Chaos Theory DLC for sure, maybe. Who knows? Yeah, the Frontier Allosaurus is definitely one of the things I'm going to miss. Same with the Iguanodon. It is really weird that we don't get like anything for the Fallen Kingdom Allosaurus. Seemingly, like we see the juvenile Allosaurus and it's just a small version of the Battle of Big Rock Allo, which is just weird. So maybe they do. I mean, maybe there's a timeline. Maybe there's a world where they keep the Frontier Allo, and the juvenile is just the Allo from Fallen Kingdom. Maybe. I'm not gonna count. I'm not gonna count on it. I'm not gonna bet on that, but maybe. And then the last thing I think gets cut altogether for sure and repurposed is the Dracorex. And I think the Dracorex just becomes the juvenile for Pachycephalosaurus. I think we get a new juvenile for Stiggy and the Dracorex. I think it's possible the Dracorex model is literally ported into 3 as the juvenile. I think it's entirely reasonable that we don't get anything new for the Pachycephalosaurus. It is the one animal that has like, the female version at least, and the juvenile are both ported from 2. And so that's kind of puts this in a unique spot for how it gets cut. I think it's also possible the Dracorex gets cut, but we do get a different design for the juvenile Pachycephalosaurus. But I think there's essentially 0 chance that the Dracorex makes it into the new game. I think this is I think Dracorex is the single animal, the single model, variant, whatever. I think it's the single one we can almost entirely say for sure is cut. I think it's the least likely animal that we see again. Just because there's that whole issue with it being the juvenile form of Pachycephalosaurus. Yeah, Beckel, Spinox, Mahjong, Sucho, and Pachyrhino would be a full roster for a paid DLC. That could be the case. Was there any other new animals in Chaos Theory? Those are the only 4, right? I think so. So you would have those 4, and you'd have like the white baryonyx skin and like Geba the Gallimimus or something. Yeah, that kind of is a DLC that makes itself. All right, well, I think that's kind of everything I have to say here about this. I think I can believe in this roster, and I think there's plenty of room for things to be pulled out and swapped out with some of the things I cut as well. I would say maybe like 55 of these or 60 of these are pretty hard lock. And the other, 15 or whatever, or 10 can be switched out. I also think there's a distinct possibility that we do see things like Utahraptor held back and repurposed into DLC. Same with like Dinochirus, Utahrana. Some of these like really nice newer animals could really follow the Concavinator and the Thanatos Dracon model of becoming DLC animals again. And I think that would suck, but I think it's possible. All right, well, I think we'll end this video here then. Until next time.